She asked, how was the crowd going to be? And I said, just say whatever you want to say. Just talk about whatever you want to talk about. Be ready for it. So just going to choose an excerpt from her book, and then we're going to go straight into Q&A from the audience. However, if you all are going to be a little shy, I have lots of questions that we can talk about, but I definitely want the audience to get an opportunity to speak and ask your questions. So definitely after the excerpt that she reads, we're going to go straight into Q&A. Please go forward.
So I'm just going to read from the, first of all, how many of you guys have had a chance to read it? Okay, a couple of you. I'm so glad. Thank you for reading it, and for those of you who haven't, you're dead to me. Just kidding. I'm glad that I get to give you an introduction. So, and it begins like this. At only 11 years of age, I was a cyber hoe. Looking back, I'm embarrassed for me, for my parents, but oddly enough, my cyber social debauchery is indirectly correlated with my current status as a so-called internet pioneer. It all started when I began catfishing, creating characters and transmitting them over the internet. Though back then, people just called it lying. Had my father not signed my entire family up with America Online accounts for the computer in our modest Potomac, Maryland home, I don't know that I'd have had the tools to exploit the early ages of the internet. 2 years earlier, my oldest brother, Amadou, had gone away to college at Morehouse, freeing up the coveted computer which was housed in the basement for my use. Before he decamped for college, I would spend hours at a time watching him type the commands into MS-DOS that would transport us to the magical kingdom of Sierra's King's Quest 6 on our IBM. I never had a strong desire to play the game myself. I always assumed I wasn't smart enough to play on my own until Amadou graduated from the house and I no longer had anyone to excitedly observe. I looked up to my oldest brother as the epitome of intelligence. He knew everything. Though he was too humble to be ostentatious with his knowledge as I would have been had I been as smart. So I simply observed. At 18, he was an official adult, and he had a duty to selflessly spread his intelligence to the world, other people's younger sisters included. His absence left a void in my heart, and in the basement, particularly where the use of the computer was concerned. I wasn't next in line for the computer, but my second oldest brother, Malik, was too preoccupied with football, girls, and high school to care. He'd occasionally make use of it for term papers and Tetris, but otherwise it was mine for the taking. Using the computer wasn't foreign to me by any means. I had an old Apple computer in my very own room, which was a double source of jealousy for my younger brother, where I played number munchers and self-published my stories on perforated paper from an excruciatingly noisy printer. "Joey, are you wasting paper again?" My mother would yell from her makeshift home office, tipped off by the mechanical snitch. When alone and mom approved, I actually loved to hear the robotic crunching and whirring that the printer made while laying to ink my very own written words. But the computer in my room paled in comparison to the one downstairs in the basement of sexuality. Because of AOL, I had imaginary friends that weren't imaginary. I had elaborate conversations devoid of awkward silences. And perhaps most valuable of all, I could actually talk to boys at my command. Before my parents caught wind of frightening news reports of child predators, I spent my days and after-school evenings in chat rooms learning to speed read, talking to kids my age who were also ahead of the curve, or pedophiles, who were remarkably creative and persistent in their forbidden pursuit. Pedos actually had it made in the mid-90s before the media exposed them. Talk about glory days. My friends at school, other fifth graders, didn't seem to relate when I mentioned chat rooms and profiles, or when I sang along to the dial-up internet song I made up in my head. It seemed that for a brief moment, only I was privy to this alternate American universe that lived online. By the time my family moved to Los Angeles to join my dad, a pediatrician who had seized an opportunity to open his own family clinic there, my relationship with the computer had grown immensely, much to the dismay and irritation of my mother. "You're always on the computer. Go do your homework." "I already finished." "Well, then go outside and play." She just didn't get it. Only recently, in my late 20s, did she come to realize that my excessive computer use is what led me to becoming the self-employed, almost focused career woman I am today. By the summer of 1996, more of my friends from Maryland had adopted AOL. It helped us bridge the 3,000 miles between us. By then, I was already over the handwritten letters of yesteryear. That was a form of communication of the third world, reserved for pen pals from Ghana and Spain. Besides, the "You've got mail" greeting was way more exciting than the dead silence of receiving a letter. And exclaiming, "I've got mail" in the foyer to yourself isn't the same, trust me. It was through electronic mail that I tell my friends back home about my Hollywood adventures. Never mind the fact that I lived in Windsor Hills, 30 minutes away from Hollywood, and that I was struggling to make friends, or that my sense of style was horrendous and my middle school had done away with lockers so that the authorities could better monitor drug use. And all I ever wanted was a locker. I felt robbed of the middle school experience I saw in Boy Meets World and Doug. But my friends didn't have to know that. I led them to believe I was on the brink of stardom just by breathing in the recycled smog of other celebrities around me. Plus, I lived down the street from Ray Charles's old house, so I was famous by association. I'm gonna skip ahead. The only computer in the house, all I knew was that boys cared about sex, and I didn't know enough about it. I was too embarrassed to ask my peers. They were already uber judgmental about my naivete to all things black after Tupac died? What did he sing? Normally I would have been spared from middle school humiliation by asking my two older brothers directly. They would have happily explained who Tupac was, and I would have happily plagiarized their responses and relayed their feelings about him as my own. But by then, my second oldest brother had also graduated from the house to go to college, and I was left as the oldest in the house. If I had trouble attracting the boys at my school before, my ignorance about Tupac destroyed any remote chance I might have had. Like dynamic, they would always like secretly talk to us in church, like, you don't know, she ain't right, she cannot sing while she up there. I wanted to imagine, like, you know, what their backstories were, and so that's what it that's how it came to be. I just wanted to explore some of the just intricacies of the church community and some of the contradictions and hypocrisies, and just have a human experience inside the church. And so it's really fun to do. The cast is just super talented.
I try to find my network of people that understand that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that you have to focus here. Like, you being in Little Rock or Arkansas does not matter in any way, just like it didn't matter that, you know, I was in New York at the time, and California. Like, it's just about finding a community and finding your niche. Like, that's just really important to establish a community first. So, like, even when I was doing my blog, I was focused on television and film, and because that was my interest. So I was engaged with other people. So I was becoming friends with other film bloggers and things like that, and going to their pages and reading and making, you know, online friends that way, and building a network, like a genuinely supportive network. And so that still took a long time. A lot of people expect to create something and then have success within months or years or weeks, but mine was like I started in 2006.